Sorry, what's that?
How's everything going?
Oh, good, man. Just got done with a leg workout and focused on the hamstrings more than the quads, even though it's inevitable you hit both. I'm at my all-time lowest weight today. It was 191.4, and I took a couple more big dumps that morning before I ate anything, so I might have been lighter than that, but. But yeah, like I took a break from doing bench press for a while because it just kind of puts your pec in a weird position at one point in your range of motion, simply because your hands are stuck on a bar. They're not moving like dumbbells, you know.
Well, yeah, I eliminated that a long time ago. Dumbbells, just
So,
just a slight variation, slight adjustment can make all the difference.
well, with that in mind, I have a limited range of motion when I do bench because of that. So I kind of stay away from the top end and I just stay at the bottom mid range, kind of like where the chest is constantly in tension.
Yeah.
And I don't really care too much about lockout or going up too far because most of that's triceps, anyways, and that's not what I'm trying to do. So,
I yeah, as you lock out, you're throwing more shoulder and ultimately your triceps.
and that's where I find my pec will strain is at the top. I don't know what it is about the position, but like it really, my pecs seem to not get hurt or strain when I stay near the bottom mid range doing bench press. So, long story short, like I was killing it. I was hitting 365 for like 10 to 12 on the regular, and I was hitting like 315 for like 21, 22. And then my left pec just kept straining. Like I'd be like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna lay off bench now and take it easy the rest of the chest workout. And it did that to me for like 4 in a row, and I kept ignoring it. And then it just got to a point where it was like, like I might need to stay away from this for a minute and let stuff heal because I don't want to tear a pec. That's how people tear pecs.
It was
So
like fluttering, like a little bit like boop 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 boop, almost
nah,
almost not really like a spasm, but you're feeling the muscle twitching is the word I was looking for. Twitching.
uh, if not twitching, I literally could feel like it was on the verge of tearing apart, whether it was where the tendons connect or what.
Okay.
But
That's not good. That's not
it,
good.
in my head, I'm picturing like my muscle just hanging on with like a few fucking threads. That's how it felt. But in reality, it's not really what's going on. But so I laid away from bench for about a month and a half, and I've been doing prep the whole time. And so the day before yesterday, I did bench press for the first time since, and I still hit 315 for 21 reps, and I didn't go to 365, but I was happy just to do that and not have any chest pains like in the muscle. So
I don't
uh,
know. I don't remember who I heard. It was just recently talking about with the bench, and actually put down the flat. Uh, you were either a slight decline or at least an incline, but not just the idea is not to. I forget who was saying it, and I forget why the reason was, but they were totally dismissing flat.
yeah,
Don't do it
I could tell
either
you
this way or that way, but not flat.
why they would, because when you're doing bench press, you'll notice like powerlifters are a great example. They tuck their feet a little behind their knees, and they get a little bit of a bridge, and they form tension all the way from their toes all the way up to their neck. And so when you're like that, you're kind of pushing your shoulders up and into the bench, like back, and you're almost at a little bit of a decline once you've achieved the right stance, if you will, with bench press. And once you're in the right position, you're at a little bit of a decline, even though you're on a flat bench. And that's where your power zone is. And that's where you get your elbows down low, close to your rib cage. And then you get your back's involved at that point because of all the tension. And yes, it's a compound movement. No, you don't want to try to isolate your chest on that. And even though your lats and everything else are so involved, you're pushing a lot more weight than you would if you were trying to just sit flat and do it and flare out your elbows and trying to isolate your chest like an idiot. But
Well, you know what? You know what? I really started to feel the pumps really feel it in your chest is when I changed the basically a lot like what you were just describing. I arced the low back a little bit more. I learned to press the shoulder blades into the pads, but the difference was hold the shoulders back also. So as you're pressing, you're not letting it's tricky, and you have to work your way up to it. But learning to hold your shoulders back as you're pressing the weight up, that's actually minimizing the workload. You're still working your shoulders, but you're minimizing it, and you're putting more of the workload on the chest. And that's when I really started to feel my chest workouts a whole lot differently.
and the key to achieving the right form too is the bench you're using. I've used a lot of benches. And there's a lot of gyms that will have a bench press with this skinny fucking backrest of a bench, no padding. And so what happens is there's rounded edges on this thin fucking thing where your back is just like hanging over like this on either side. And so then you got to balance yourself there on these rounded edges with no cushion. So like over at my buddy's gym, we've got the really heavy duty bench presses. They're meant for like 1,000 pounds or whatever or more. And the fucking back pad is like this wide. It's like that thick, and you can actually push your shoulders into it and dig into it and secure yourself and stabilize yourself. And you'll find that your bench press will be so much better if you have the right bench.
You know what I always wondered. The people who design these equipment. I mean, you would think that it would be a common sense thing to, if you're laying down on something, to have what you're laying down on wide enough to support the body part that's laying down on it, your back. You would think that's the common sense thing to do, but for some reason, most of them missed the boat on that one.
It's almost like a guy straight out of engineering college designs a machine, but he's never worked out in his fucking life. He's like, well, this works on paper, but like back in the day when Nautilus was making all that cutting edge shit, they had all the famous bodybuilders test out all the prototypes before they get the thumb.
Well, Joe Gold, his equipment was supposed to. He made his own equipment. He had handmade equipment, and the stuff he made was. But he trained. He worked out as a younger man. So you have something to work with. You know what's needed.
Yeah. Like I have like, I think I can't think of it right now, but I've got like a few ideas. Like, okay, so, when I say this, like, I think people, when they experiment, they need to like do it cautiously, of course, but like when you experiment with exercises, I feel like you really need to know what you're doing. You need to have a lot of experience with it. And what I've been doing, like when COVID happened, I could only work out at home. And so I started getting like a little like experimentative with my back workouts and specifically lat pull downs. And instead of being directly under the pulley and having a straight back and just pulling straight down, and sticking your chest up into it like you've always been told, I always found that like I would just kind of lose tension towards the top, like the last third of the range of motion, like not lost, but lose it. And so when I basically just took a inverted bench and I took it, put some distance between it and the pulley. And so now I'm doing lat pull downs at like an angle like this, right? And so like I'm pulling down almost like a pull down, like as if you're pulling down like this. But then when I get to a certain point, I then like it's almost like a row.
Okay.
Like a row, kind of a row lat pull down type of motion. And I found that like I can keep complete tension at the top because I'm away from the pulley, and even though my arms are extended, there's tension on my lats even at the very top. So like I can, and the row motion kind of engages your lats a bit more, whereas when you're straight up above your head, it's a different motion. Like there's a use for it and there's benefits to straight up and down, but I just found that I got a lot of back stimulation in doing that kind of an angle with my lat pull downs, and then I would do like reverse grip, triangle grip, rope, wide grip.
What we're missing for what we need for, I always thought about it for the legs. Remember the old days, you got the leg extension, the leg curl, the leg extension, it was just a flat bench. So you could lie backwards.
Right. Yeah.
Lie back and still do the extension motion. You notice Tom Platt's doing that towards the ends of his sets. He's almost flat on the bench, not quite. But with that, I think we need to design a leg extension with an adjustable back like that, because that's working your muscle in a very similar way as you're working the muscle when you do a sissy squat.
Yeah, I was just thinking that in my head.
Because when you're back like that, in that position, when your legs and your body are on those planes like that, you're getting a more of a stretch. That's one of the exercises where you can really stretch the quad. So you're stretching the quad to flexing it, stretch to flex. You don't get a stretch like that on any other exercise, but the sissy squat. I like to do the sissy squat. I do them fairly regularly.
What's funny is when I was training at home during COVID, I bought a really, really, really nice bench, $1,200 bench. It has a leg extension attachment with weights, and I'd hook up an elastic strap to that, so the top end was really hard. But like I would lay down. I would lay down on my bench flat sometimes, and sometimes I would sit up and I would experiment with it. But I found that I liked laying down. I thought, man, this kind of feels better, but you're always told to sit straight up. And I
consider myself a very analytical person. I'm very observant, and I think that I'm thinking about it. I'm saying, you know what? We're talking about various ways you can work a muscle. I go by the Ironman. They had the positions of flexion, the mass construction positions of flexion. Basically, 3 ways you can work a muscle: mid-range, and a contracted, and then stretch position. Very few exercises work the muscle more than one of those positions. I'm like, they were always saying, well, the only thing that you really can work the quads from stretch position good is the sissy squat. I'm like, there has to be another way to do this. And I'm thinking about or maybe I was watching one of the videos, and I saw some of the old school guys on the old leg extensions. And I'm looking at the top flats, and I'm like, yeah, that's the way you do it. You lay back while you're doing your leg extensions. You got that stretch, and it's a totally different exercise.
So speaking of which, something very relatable is leg curls. Two things I want to talk about. So Jeff Schneider, told me about this one to do where you, if you have the foot attachment, where you can rig up like a Velcro strap and you put a dumbbell, to the bottom of your foot. But you basically can hang from a pull-up bar and you do like dumbbell curls with your leg, and you just do them real slow and you squeeze the fuck out of it at the top. And like
I see the old school guy. I see the old school guys doing that.
Dude, it's killer because the more I do it, the more I'm like making that connection with why it's different from everything else. And I found that the dumbbell sits more on the ball of my foot, like in between the arch and the ball of my foot. And when it's the ball of my foot at the top, that's the dumbbell shifts to there. And when it's there, when the force is all in the ball of my foot, not the heel, but the ball, it engages a lot more of my hamstrings. And so I do this other exercise. The other one I want to talk about was, how you have the hyperextension bench?
Okay, yeah.
So that we also have benches for doing leg curls like that. So instead of being at an angle, you're just like this, but you're up in the air.
Okay.
And you can play with like the bench and adjust in all sorts of ways. And on that one, I can position my feet so that the balls of my feet are the contact point of the bench, aside from my thighs or knees. And that one too, I can, at the very top, I'm not resting, but I'm squeezing the shit out of my my hammies. And when it's the balls of your feet, it's almost like your fingertips or something. Like you can engage more of like your the little muscles in your hammies versus a machine that's contacting your heels or Achilles tendons.
Since we're talking about exercises and machines, I got one that I have an issue with. The traditional pec deck. They have your arms up like this and you're squeezing them in.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody says. Your shoulders, arm, you weren't meant to squeeze with tension from that position.
I agree.
When I used to use the ones that didn't have the regular fly type machine, I'd go on a pec deck, but I would grab the pads and push them in like this. I would never. I think that's the cause of a lot of freaking shoulder problems. I see a lot of people doing it. They think it's a great exercise. I was isolating my pecs. No, it's destroying your shoulders, because you weren't meant to squeeze like that with your arms in that position. And
No, I much prefer the cables. Same idea, but you have the backrest, and you can really do whatever you want with it.
I mean, if you're going to use a machine, if you have the fly machine, or you're going to use the one with the pads like that, if you lift your elbows up and grab the pads, it's a hugging. Becomes a hugging motion.
Mm-hmm.
And hugging is a very natural thing for our bodies. That motion is a very natural motion for our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the difference. The other way, I think I think it's really destroying the shoulders. They should get rid of the machine altogether.
Yeah, thinking back, there was one time back in middle school when I was doing a Pec Deck machine like that, and we had one in our middle school that was a very seriously built Pec Deck, and it was the pads were just the way you said, but it was like you sat up high and it was angled back, and like you sit back up into it and you're just totally locked in and it's committed. It fucking targets the fuck out of your chest. But I was going hard on that one.
Your arms were squeezed together like that, and from that position.
I injured my shoulder on that, and it was so bad back then. Like I couldn't throw a tennis ball for like 3 months, And I was like, fuck, like this ain't getting better. What am I gonna do? And my dad just got shoulder surgery, so he's like, here, take my my medicine band, my therapy bands, and just stand in the middle of this, having a end in either hand, and then just do all kinds of rotations and shit. And that,
Our workouts should be built around the basics, right?
mhm,
And all the other exercises we do should be basically variations of the basics.
yeah,
Basic movements that the basic lifting movements are all very natural movements for the body to do. They're
yeah,
just your body, the way your body is designed, they are natural movements.
yeah, and it's well established what people have already laid down. And you, every once in a while, someone will be innovative and they'll figure something out that's beneficial. But I mean, there's no more reinventing the wheel, really. I think someone who we should all pay attention to is Doug Brignoli. Uh, he's got a very good understanding of everything, I think, and I take bits and pieces of what he talks about and I apply it to stuff I do. I mean, you know how it is. You take bits and pieces of everything and mold
I
it
mean,
to you.
I think what I was starting to get at is a lot of this equipment is really unnecessary. Some of it is counterproductive, and a lot of it is unnecessary.
Yeah, I worked out at this fancy gym. It's a brand new gym in Reno. I forget the name of it, but they had brand new Nautilus equipment, and I'm like, whoa. I walk in, I'm like, wow, this is like some new Nautilus shit, cool. And every single machine I tried, I couldn't even connect to it. Everything, like it just didn't connect. It didn't make sense with my body. It didn't fit me. Didn't the motion wasn't right. I was like, this is stupid. I'm gonna do free weights. I never came back to that gym ever again. But it was like, it was just shocking that the brand name Nautilus had all this fancy looking nice equipment. It was garbage.
Well, isn't it odd that isn't it or is it odd that uh, two of the most intimidating physiques on the Olympia stage that were built in gyms that didn't have a shitload of stuff, a shithole in a dungeon.
Yeah,
Uh,
I made a lot of gains in my garage over COVID. I didn't have everything, but I made shit work. So it's all on the bodybuilder. You should be able to take most anything and maximize it in some sort of way. I mean, if you're an experienced bodybuilder and you get on a machine and you just can't connect to it, then move on to something else. Maybe that machine is actually a piece of shit.
just
But
stick with the basics and a couple of variations for each body part, and the idea is to work hard, eat good, eat right, eat good, and rest. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment to get the job done.
and the point is, if you're not feeling it, then you're not something's not happening. That's all. That's what I always say. If you can't make the connection, but shit, every time you do
I,
free weights, you're making all kinds of connections.
I was referencing Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates. I brought it up to you before. Uh, I don't think we've ever seen the best Dorian Yates on stage. I think every time he actually stepped on stage, he was a little sucked down. I argue that in '93, Dorian 6 weeks out, he looked like he was ready for that final week before stepping on stage. I'll argue that Dorian could have very possibly beaten any any versions of Ronnie, which might consider his best. Some say 98, 99. there wasn't much of a difference between 98 and 99. And others say 2003 is his biggest. And one of the things they say is that, well, he was too big for Dorian. Let me go the press conference. Ronnie Coleman, Clint over there running his mouth, talking about how he's 300 pounds. Well, I'm 300 pounds too. What you want to do about it? We can do it right here. Let's go. He's claiming he's around 300 pounds. When you watch the videos of it, the caption on it lists him at 294, 297. I forget what it was, but it was in the 290s. Where I'm going with this is Jay said back who's backstage with Ronnie says he's seen Ronnie on the scale on numerous occasions backstage, and he was in the upper 270s. So he wasn't quite as I believe Jay when he says that. Dorian Yates was in his 270s in those pictures. Now you got to remember, you're not seeing them actually standing next to each other in those shapes, that conditioning. But he's in his upper 270s in those pictures, and height-wise, they're almost the same.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think standing on stage, Ronnie would have the illusion of looking bigger, even though they would have been very similar in weight there and height. I think that has to do with the density. I think Dorian was denser. So if something is denser, it'll the same amount of weight is going to take up less space, right? The denser something is.
In theory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This the same. The denser something is, the less space it's gonna. The same weight item, one is twice as dense as the other. It will fit in a smaller container than the other one will because of the density.
But
You're having as much in a smaller compact tight eye. So I think he would look physically, his muscle size would look bigger, but he would not be. I don't think he would be overpowering and imposing to Matt Dorian.
it would certainly be a great thing to see both of them side by side in their prime. What jumps out to my mind right away is what weaknesses did either one have? And the only thing I can think of is Dorian Yates' weak points were his biceps.
Okay, that's good. Go ahead. I want to add to that. Go ahead. So tell me about his biceps.
Well, they just weren't as amazing as the rest of him.
Yeah, okay, but if you look at those images, those 6 week out images in '93,
I remember. Yeah.
his arms didn't look. Uh, that's not the way they looked on stage.
You were right. Yeah, I remember looking at that too.
Difference. So even though it might not have been his best part, it was. It wasn't what you saw on stage. It really, he really deflated. If he was in according to him, I think he said he was 276 in those pictures, and on stage he's about 252, 254, which even at his height in that day and age, that was huge. But that's a big difference.
And then I know what you're alluding to. He probably was undercarbed, but he was so fucking ripped that it didn't matter. So had he been carved up, we might have saw something closer to those pictures rather than what we saw on stage.
Let me tell you something. He could have come in. He could have been 15 pounds fuller and probably still be the best conditioned person on the stage. With the conditioning he brought, he probably could have been 15 pounds fuller on stage with the same with better conditioning than anybody else on the stage with him. That's how much he sacrificed.
Yeah, it's that's the game you play when you're trying to peak. You're thinking, man, do I try to come in hard as a rock and dry and deplete myself, or do I try to come in full and play the game of
And
balancing the carbs just right?
it's looking at, and he was he all he basically had to do was dry out a little bit from that point,
Yeah,
and he was ready to step on stage. And I'm not sure whatever anybody considers the best version of Ronnie Coleman. If we would have saw that Dorian on stage next to what anybody considers the best version of Ronnie, I'm not sure Ronnie would beat him. And I'm sure he won't. One thing with Ronnie, he overpowered. If you look at him in uh, who's he said 1999, it was probably 2000. I think 2000, Kevin Lerone came in second.
oh,
Kevin Lerone is not a small man by any means. When you saw Ronnie and the 2000 version of Ronnie and saw him next to Lerone, it was almost man and boy. He was that much overpowering with his, and obviously that much bigger. And that wouldn't happen. I don't think that would happen with that version of Dorian. So he's not gonna. He's his muscles itself, individual muscles, might look a little bigger. Because I think Dorian was more dense, but I don't think he would overpower him by any means. So that would take away one advantage. That would take away the first advantage that Ronnie has, is that he was so big and conditioned, just overpowered everybody. Then it goes further than that, but that's the first thing that happens, and it wouldn't happen with that Dorian.
when I think back on it, and I think an area where Dorian's graininess prevails over Ronnie the most is in the back. In the back, that's where I think Ronnie held most of his water, and then like his legs and even his glutes were striated to the max. I mean, Ronnie's legs, you couldn't say they had to be any drier, but I feel like his back, his lower back and mid back, there was times where it seemed like it was holding water. But whereas Dorian Yates, his back was dry as the Sahara Desert.
I've seen Ronnie Coleman in person. Never seen Dorian Yates in person. But one thing that I can say is that everybody that has seen Dorian in person says that you have to see him. He's one of those people you have to see in person to really appreciate what he's bringing, because camera and video just cannot show what you see when you see him. And uh, I, I'll argue the point. I think that if we were able to somehow time machine or whatever, take the 93 Dorian 6 weeks out, just dry him out, so he's ready to go on stage and put that against uh, any of what you think is the best version of Ronnie. I think Dorian prevails. You got to remember, Dorian was also the master of the mandatory. He knew how he knew how to pose. When it came to the mandatories, he knew how to pose and he knew how to do it to highlight his physique to the maximum. And Ronnie was never known for his posing skills either. I argue with you that Dorian beats Ronnie Coleman.
I think Ronnie, though, he did more variations of poses. I think Dorian stuck to more contemporary type poses. You know, like Ronnie would kneel down and do the splits, or he would twist and do all kinds of shit. But
No,
I remember
I'm
Dorian.
talking about your mandatories. When you're being was really the for the most part the contest is scored in the pre-judging. When you go through your mandatories, you get comparison, and that's I think that's the most. If you want to look at one thing as the most important aspect of what you're doing on stage, it's the mandatories. And Dorian knew how to hit the mandatories to maximize presenting his physique, whereas Ronnie was never known to be that great in his. He was just so. I mean, the size and the conditioning that he brought. Like it goes back to the fact that he just overpowered everybody.
Yeah, they both got their strong points and weak points, I guess. But I think Ronnie is just a better. I think he's just a better shape. That's just my opinion. Is where we obviously, but like I'm a fan of Dorian. Like when I grew up, I remember Dorian being Mr. Olympia, and I had all his pictures on my wall, and I thought he was the greatest ever. I just think that Ronnie is more versatile. I know we're talking about just mandatory poses, but like when you look at them from all angles, I feel like Ronnie's a little more like complete in 3D, where you could put him in a lot of different poses and he's going to look more complete or better than Dorian. But Dorian, there's a few poses that he beats Ronnie in, which are very important. Again, like you said, the mandatories, like I think the side chest was something he had, had him beat, had the side tricep. He had
His side chest and 6 weeks out, man, it didn't. It was popping, and you didn't see that on stage.
Ronnie never once did the side chest correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he may have been too big to do it, or he just didn't know how to do it right. But that's most people these days. They don't know how to do the side chest the right way. But Dorian had the side chest done correctly, and he had the side tricep. He had the rear double bicep on lockdown. The rear lat spread. I'd say he's got Ronnie beat there. Front double bicep probably goes to Ronnie. Abs and quads. Could be Dorian.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's tough because you got a upper body and you got lower body. Ronnie would be in that pose with those legs. He'd be strong in the lower body, but Dorian, he hits that. He hits that good. He knows how to hit it. He looks good, and the upper body, he knows that he wins the pose. So
and
that's
the front lat spread. Fucking Dorian Yates had that better than anybody.
nobody beats him. And
No,
you know
yeah,
what?
oh, nobody.
Now, and if you turn to the back, you know what? Dorian got him like you said, on the side triceps. Was Ronnie just could not hit a good side triceps whatsoever. But even on Ronnie's strongest points, in a lower half, you'll make your you got to make a strong argument for Ronnie. But would Ronnie beat Dorian on top from the back?
Not on top, simply because of what I was like earlier. I think Ronnie holds water in his back, and then Dorian Yates came in dry as fuck. But I think the legs from the back, Ronnie might have him beat.
Yeah, but the way I'm getting it now, if you go by the mandatories, I think it would be like, you have to throw it towards Dorian. If you look at the mandatories, if you're judging and that's basically what the competition is judged on. And I have a problem with the 2-day shows. Go on stage for free judging in the morning, come back at night. Whatever division you're in should be completed in one day. You don't get a second day to make up. Fuck that bullshit. And if you go by the mandatories, I think you can't argue against Dorian. I think Dorian takes it.
I guess you're right. You know, I if it comes down to straight up bodybuilding, Dorian Yates probably takes it simply because of his density factor and his graininess and dryness. If he didn't have that factor, I would give it to Ronnie hands down.
Yeah, I mean, I would have just loved to see those two versions. 2003 Ronnie and that 6 weeks out Dorian next to each other because, like I said, weight wise, they're about the same and they're about the same in height. And I would just be very curious to see what it would look like. I'm certain Ronnie would not overpower like he does everybody else. That's a big man. That's a big man. 5'11" on stage, in his 270s conditioned. That's a big man.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm thinking like I'm gonna be probably on stage at probably like 188 or something like that, and I'm 5'7".
Have you seen? I wanted to ask you. Have you seen what's been going on? It just popped up between Iris Kyle and Milos Sarcev.
I heard he was calling her out for something. What was it?
Well, and first thing we heard was that she kicked him out of the gym. Their gym, hers and Hidetada's gym, because there was disruption. He was taking up too much space with his supersets, and it was disrupting other people's workouts. So that's what traditionally got from Iris. Okay,
Right.
so she said she talked to Milos about it, but he ignored her and he keeps on doing it.
Okay.
So Dave puts it up on RX Muscle, and he just makes a comment that he doesn't know Iris as being a liar. He hasn't talked to Milos yet. He's just talking to her. So he's just going by what she says. And he's like kind of like tongue in cheek talking about it. Well, Milos does use a lot of space at one time with his supersets. So then Milos came on RX Muscle to respond, and it tells a little bit of a different story. He said first off, he was invited over there. He goes back with Hidetata quite a few years. He trained him. He was invited over there. Everybody knows how, and he brought up the point that everybody knows what he does, and how his training style is, and they invited him over, and he's going to bring over people, and having him here there is going to help for their business. All of a sudden, she has an issue with she has an issue with him using so much space, and ends up kicking him out. Then she says that he's not working with Regan Grimes anymore. Regan Grimes dropped him, which Milos assures us not so. But then he goes back to saying that him and Iris have a little bit of a history. Somehow in a previous gym endeavor he had, she and someone else were stealing from him in some manner, and there was a confrontation about it. So I don't know. There's a lot of back and forth. Uh, she says he got kicked out for hogging up the gym. He says that's not so. She got boss man issues, and she's creating a lot of tension. One last thing, I'm gonna let you jump in. Something was going on where Jay said a lot of people feel uncomfortable, supposedly feel uncomfortable about her. And Jay Cutler was supposed to be coming down to that gym. And one of the people that were involved with Jay called up ahead of time to find out whether she was going to be there. When I found out she wasn't going to be there, he came down there simply because it makes her feel she makes him feel so uncomfortable, and supposedly he's like that with other people.
Well, there's always two sides to a story, so sounds to me like it was a combination of two personalities that didn't mesh, and perhaps she was probably a little revengeful with her throwing him out of the gym from the current or the recent or the event that happened in the past. Was it merited? I don't know. I wasn't there, but
Yeah.
I can tell you that there was a gym I was part of where there was this personal trainer lady, and for one, she had the most annoying fucking voice in the world. It was like high pitched, and she'd be like, "Come on, guys, let's go," you know, and she'd have like 6 or 8 fucking girls that she was training at once for, bikini stuff, and like literally 6 or 8 of them, and they'd be all in the gym just taking up like 6 pieces of equipment sometimes, and it's like if I wanted to do some tricep push downs or lat pull downs, well, that's out of the fucking question, and like I can understand if someone else is going to a gym and there's this trainer guy who's training, 1, 2, 3 people, and they're supersetting with all kinds of equipment and you can't get in there. That would really annoy the fuck out of me.
Well, you know what? I have an issue though also with these personal trainers working with multiple people at the same time.
Yeah.
You need to be focusing on an individual. That's it.
Yep.
Just schedule them. They're just out there. They're just looking to get as much money in as short a period of time as they can. You need to be focusing on the individual.
Yeah, if you want to do that group class bullshit, go on a fucking wooden floor where there's mirrors in the room and do your whatever. But like, yeah, when you're a trainer in the gym and if you're training one person, that's cool. If you're supersetting, cool. You can't take up that much equipment if you're one person. I mean, and like what I do, if I'm supersetting and someone wants to use it, I just kindly say, yeah, work in. This is what I'm doing. Let's switch off. Here.
That's another issue also, is people don't do that these days anyway.
Yeah, no, I always share what I'm using because I'm going to stop using it at some point, and rest for like 30, 45 seconds. And damn it, that's enough time to let someone else use it. So it's a crowded world. Everyone else, other people need to get their workout in. You're not the only one.
But going back to this Iris Milos thing, the truth is, I mean, look at it. I think Milos makes a little more sense because everybody, that's the way he's always trained people. So when they invite him down, they know they wanted him there. They wanted him because he would be a draw. He's bringing these top pros that he's working with. That's another thing also. Gold's Gym was known to do it. I believe Steve Weinberg always did it, and the Dragon's Lair does it also. When these top pros come over there and they train, it's not they don't get charged because that's bringing in a lot of business.
Yeah.
Milos was working out of he's back over there now to Flex's Gym, the Dragon's Lair. But he went over there, according to him, I tend to believe him, to help them because he's going to bring his pros over there to train and he's going to help bring business. And all of a sudden now, where they weren't doing it before, all of a sudden they're charging Iris. Here he says, "Oh, pick it up at Iris," and Iris is charging. So
yeah, sounds like a bunch of revengeful, spiteful things going on between them.
Tell me, have you ever listened to her in interviews or anything, Iris? I always had the feeling that she's a little bit what's the word? I'm trying to think. A little bit tight. Like, go ahead. Say what you're saying. I'll think of it in a minute.
With what I've seen, nothing's ever jumped out at me where I thought something was weird about her. She seemed like a really nice lady to me.
I think maybe words are strong, a little strong-headed at times. A little cocky. It's not like I've talked about it before. There's confident and there's cocky and arrogant, and I think at times she's come across like that. And at times she seemed a little angry about things.
I mean, it's possible
that's my perspective.
I mean, who knows to what extent she's used PEDs, but perhaps that has something to do with her chemical balance because, what makes someone moody is like when they're on testosterone, or if it's the time of the month for a woman, it's estrogen, a lot of estrogen being in your system. That's what makes you emotional. And
this is interesting. This can lead me into another topic altogether. My last video I just put up. I was talking about women's bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And my issues with it, and it has nothing to do with the women working out, building their physique the best way they can. And it's the use of the steroids. Well, I'll get back to that in a second. I'm also not undermining the effort that these women put in, because they bust their ass in the gym, okay? And it might sound hypocritical what I said about steroids, because I don't have an issue with it being used per se. It's just that these steroids are, you're talking about testosterone, derivatives of testosterone, the hormone that makes a man a man. Yes, women need some levels of testosterone, as do men need some levels of estrogen, but it's It's the testosterone that makes a man a man. So my issue with the women's bodybuilding, and I was seeping into other divisions because they're all doing it, is the women taking male hormones.
So this is what comes to my mind right away, and it goes for both men and women. If you're using that stuff, be smart about it. Use the lowest effective dose. But anything, when you start abusing anything, you're going to start looking weird. You're going to start, your health might go haywire. Side effects start happening, and I think women can use it for sure, and there's a need for it for athletic stuff or bodybuilding. But when you take so much that you've turned into a man, that's a bit far. I think adding some muscle to your body is great as a woman, if that's what you want to do. But then when your face changes into Skeletor and you have no breasts anymore and your clitoris is a bunch of bat wings hanging out, who knows what else you've done to your body at that point? Like
My thumbnail, I forgot what documentary I saw it on. Ben Rita turning a woman into a man is just a little too much.
Yeah, I'm not for it.
So now my question is, where do you draw the line, and how do you draw the line? How are you going to get them to stop at this level? You don't do more than this, because it doesn't happen. Once you open Pandora's box, that's it.
Yeah. I think maybe two things. If your health changes dramatically and not for the best, and you're trying to do it to achieve a look, then that's not good. I think you should rethink your game plan with PEDs at that point. And then also, if side effects are so bad that it's changing the way you look, like a lot, and not a good way, I think you should stop doing that as much. Perhaps you're doing too much, because I don't think it takes a lot of this stuff to get results. But when you abuse it, like everybody else you hear about, when they're taking all this shit, you're probably going to die sooner,
Right, so then what are acceptable? All right, so you can say for sports is a little different. So what are acceptable levels of the hormone for a woman? And
Well,
what's acceptable, what's overboard?
I forget where women are supposed to be, but it's very minuscule, obviously. But some women don't have enough. Like my aunt, she doesn't have any, so she's on a testosterone supplement via injection through her doctor. But like it's very minuscule.
We're talking about something that's not in balance and keeping it in balance. That's what you're talking about at this right now with your aunt. But I'm talking about as far as
Yeah.
we're
So
talking about somebody that's fine. There's no imbalance. Everything is basically what's considered normal range for your sex at your age. At what point is it acceptable, an okay amount, and at what point do we say, hey, this is too much?
all right, well, let's use this example. Let's say you're a bike rider, and you're a woman, and you just want a little more, something past taking DHEA, because DHEA does wonders for either male or female, which is the precursor to taking steroids. But I think say this woman just wants a little more athletic performance. If she just takes a little bit more than what's normal, she's going to feel better. She's going to have more energy. She's going to recover faster. Side effects, if any, are going to be very minuscule. And I think at that point, you're achieving the extra performance you desire. You're getting extra recovery. At that point, that's enough. That's the lowest effective dose is what I'm talking about.
All right, but I'm gonna play the devil's advocate,
Mm-hmm.
right? So she does that amount, that low amount, the least the least most effective dose. Did I word it right?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Hey, this worked. This is good. You know what? I'm gonna do more. And that is the mentality. Then leads to abuse. And you know what? I'm not saying it doesn't happen with the men, because the same thing is happening, because that's the mentality. Okay, it works a little bit more. Oh, works a little bit. That's the mentality.
Yeah.
But then that's your choice. That's just human nature, really. All right. But at the end of the day, still putting hormones that make a man into a man. Maybe they're putting too much, but it's still hormones that are supposed to be there. But with the women, those hormones really are supposed to be there at that level. And that's, yeah, it's not going to stop over there. Hey, this was good. This worked. I got a little faster. I put on 3/4 of a second in this. I don't know how the bike races run, whether they're short sprint races or they're just all long, whatever. I added this amount of time. Now maybe a little more. I'm gonna cut off a little bit more time, and a little bit more, cut off a little bit more time. Another. Whatever it is, or however they measure it, I don't know. I don't follow bicycling, but you know what I'm talking about.
So
So you take it more and more. So once again, you're not going to be, unless you're not going to stop it, and you're not going to stop them from taking more than they should. My question is, what is your? I get, like I said in the beginning, and I said it in my video, I give all the respect to the work they put in and what they accomplish. Yeah, they're using drugs, so the men are using drugs also, but it's not just the drugs. They're putting in the work, and I have all the respect in the world for the work. My issue is, and I have no problem with the use of gear. My issue is putting. Uh, I don't think a guy should be taking freaking estrogen. We've
no.
talked about that before. So my issue is putting, unless there's some sort of issue where naturally there's an imbalance, and we all need some of each hormone. It's just the levels. Unless there's some sort of imbalance where you need to take it, I just haven't. I personally, and no disrespect to once again to the women and the work they put in, I personally have an issue with the drug aspect of women's bodybuilding, and now it trickles into other divisions. Women's physique. These, uh, these women figure athletes are probably doing more than I've ever did. It's ridiculous.
So rewinding back to what you said about like what would stop someone from doing more and more, like shave time off their thing, or even bodybuilding. It's like, man, yeah, I got this big, take
It's
more.
hard. It's hard because, like I said, I think it's just human nature.
It
It's
is, but like,
it's human nature, and you can you can overcome it. Uh, I guess you can, maybe, I don't like to use the word, but I don't think I think of, deprogram yourself, because it is human nature. I think it's kind of like built into us. You have somebody, for example, even though people don't believe him, Lee Priest, who never used large amounts.
I believe them.
And I believe him also. So look what he's accomplished. Yeah,
And
and I think you have more like him, but how many more like him is another story, because it is human nature. You have, uh, to, for lack of a better word, deprogram what's inherent in you. It's human nature.
So with all that in mind, the only thing that would stop, two things that would stop somebody from going over the edge is, one, you do it with supervision. You do it with somebody who is experienced, who can guide you if it's not a doctor, and hopefully that person would have the wisdom to tell you what we're always talking about, what Dave Palumbo talks about, what Lee Priest talks about. That's the lowest effective dose, and
But you
stay
know,
there.
you said Dave Palumbo, but haven't you heard him on times
Oh
talk
yeah.
about that? Yeah, and then he finds out that he's like, "What the fuck are you doing? I didn't tell you to take this, this, and this much of that thing. What are you doing?" He gives, and they just go and do more. If they don't do added compounds, they do large amounts. So, oh, so and so was doing this much. So I figured, but that's not what I told you. So, but that happens. So
It's
it's an
yes.
individual. Like I said, someone like Lee Priest, his personality, and I'm sure there are more in bodybuilding. And I mean, I mean that's life. You have to have the type of personality where the ability to deprogram what's basic human nature for us to do.
You
And
know,
like I said, when you get a little bit, yeah, it feels good. A little bit more will feel better, and that goes with not just bodybuilding and what it's with everything.
I feel like I've acquired what I'm about to say just simply through age and wisdom, but more of anything doesn't mean it's going to be better. And one of my experiences that resonates with me is like when you go out drinking, you think, oh, we're at 2 or 3 beers. I'm gonna have another one. It's gonna be even better. Oh, I'm gonna have another one. It's gonna be better. It's gonna be better and better. But then you get past a certain point where you're so drunk you can't even talk to a girl to take her home. You just slobbering on
Well,
yourself, looking like a fucking idiot. You know.
hopefully we learn. Hopefully we learn, but not unfortunately not everybody learns.
But
And it's just yeah. It's well, I guess with certain things it might be harder, a little easier, a little harder to do that. But it's just human nature, and
I'm gonna use myself though as an example. Like, I could have done stupid dosages that people have recommended. Like people who know what they're talking about. And I remember one time I did like 3 different things, and I did half of what they were telling me to do. And still, like probably 8 weeks into it, I just didn't feel right. I didn't like it. I didn't, I felt I was powerful. I was strong. I was killing it in the gym. I was huge, but I just didn't feel right. And like, so I stopped doing that cycle and just went back to TRT or whatever. And I've always felt the best off TRT. Like I make gains doing TRT still. And
are
uh,
you are
last
you able to get it through a doctor at a pharmacy? Have you gone to one of the clinics? Are you getting it from
it's
a
cheaper.
pharmacy?
It's cheaper the other way, but yeah, I could if I want.
Well, you know what? Why don't would you be able to use the same dosages if you went that route? So
Uh,
what you think? You
you
know why
say
I'm saying is because uh, that's one way. Some people say biggest one of the biggest differences. Some reason why people are taking such crazy dosages in some cases that should the use is not working. At least what I'm getting at least if you go that route, you know, you can
well,
know
you
with a
obviously.
certainty that you're using real shit.
Mhm.
What's on the label is in the bottle.
It's you know what? I'm gonna say it could be a risky environment for that sort of thing. So that's why you can't be stupid about it. You can't be too cheap, and make sure you have a reputable source.
Well,
Also, we got the test kits, you know, and if you're
what
that,
you have them? You have them? Are you using them?
I don't have any right now, but I'm not worried about the guy.
Okay, okay,
And obviously, what I'm doing works.
okay.
And so it's
Aren't you at least a little curious about
I'm
testing?
I'm really not at the moment. No, I'm not worried about it. I know
Well,
I
no,
know
worry.
where and how it's made. I know what goes into it. So
Okay.
I mean, I know a lot about it, where and how where it comes from, who makes it. So I'm only gonna say that. But so
Well, it's only three things involved. Most importantly, needs to be sterile. It
yeah,
needs to be the real thing
yeah,
and the proper dosage. That's
yeah,
all. Those are the three things you need. You got that, you're set.
mhm, yeah, essentially.
Okay.
But you know what I was gonna say earlier is, like, I remember recently I did, so normally for TRT I'm between 200 to 250 milligrams a week, and that's like where, you know, everything seems to be the best for me. And I did a little mini cycle like months ago, and I think I had my test at like 350, and I just threw like 200 tren in there. That was it. And I'll tell you, just that, I felt like a god, and I didn't feel side effects. You know, I didn't feel like shit. I didn't feel anything that like people
I
talk
don't
about with
like
tren.
I don't like it.
I like it.
Uh,
I like it.
very, very
You take it
vivid.
lightly. It's a
Not,
powerful thing, man. That's the thing. I think everybody takes too much of that.
a small dosage, but I have very, very vivid nightmares. Very vivid nightmares. And stopped it. Once I stopped it, they stopped. I'm telling you, they were bad.
Some people can't. Some people don't. They just don't handle that. You know, I hear about stuff like that where people just lose their fucking mind. You know, and
yeah, they were really bad. I would wake up and I'd be like, I wouldn't be able. Usually, I had bad dreams all my life. You all have nightmares. You wake up here, in a few minutes, you go back to sleep again. I would get these dreams that so vivid, nightmares so vivid. Wake up and just you can't fall back to sleep. You just like they really fuck your head up. And I don't. Let me stop this to see what happens. And I stopped it, and they went away. Yeah, I get nightmares once in a while. I get bad nightmares once in a while, but nothing like what was happening.
yeah.
I don't like it.
Hey, your microphone's making noise. Is it like rubbing against your shirt?
Yeah, that's probably what's happening. There's
Okay.
a little piece down here. There's a microphone. You don't hear it now, do you?
Yeah, I do. It sounds like you're in the wind or something.
Oh, I had
Oh,
turned the fan
it's your fan.
away. Is this is this better?
That's much better. Yep.
Okay, turn the fan away. All right. But you didn't
But
hear that before. That's weird. I was going to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. Hey, we've been going for quite a while. Let's try to wrap this up. Once again, if you're watching this on Muscle Central, make sure you go over with the Buffy the Iron Slayer, Chris's channel. Check out all his great content. Subscribe over there. If you're watching this on Buffy the Iron Slayer, come over to my channel, Muscle Central. Check out all my content. Subscribe here. And we covered a few things. I thought we had some interesting topics,
yeah,
interesting combo.
talked
Uh,
about exercise form, Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates, PEDs. Iris Kyle and what's his name? Milos.
Yeah,
Their
the
little
Milos
beef.
issue with anything final thoughts before
Um,
we?
the only thing that really comes to mind that's most important out of this that is just you're watching this and you're a bodybuilder and you want to be the best you can be. We all do. But I mean, really, using more PEDs is not going to make that happen. It probably past a certain point, the percentage you get back is not that much. So whatever is most effective, lowest dose for things you do, stay there. Stay to where you're feeling your best, where you don't have crazy side effects, and you're making gains and you feel great. And leave it at
Right,
that. Don't get too greedy.
right,
Be smart.
Mike, go ahead, finish up. I'm sorry. Be
Same,
smart.
just be smart and just remember that everything in life comes back to balance. Balance
Okay.
is key to bodybuilding. It's key to your diet. It's the key to life. And anything that's too extreme or too much might yield some crazy results at first, but it's not something you can keep doing forever. That goes to
All right.
anything.
My departing words of wisdom are: make sure you click on wherever you're watching this. Make sure you click on the like, share, and subscribe on both channels. And Chris, has been fun. I hope everybody enjoyed this video,
Yeah.
and we'll see you next time.
All right. Later, everybody.
Take care, everybody. All right, that went pretty good.
Yeah.
Back back to working out again.
Nice.
Uh, I
Nice.
got I got two. I got my chest and shoulders in, then I got my back the following day. I was able to do my post workout cardio. The deadlifts, I just made some adjustments, very light, and going through the movement, a lot of rep, and just trying to concentrating on tensing the muscles that we're using, primarily using for a deadlift. And it's at the end of my workout anyway. But other than that, everything else is basically the same. And my post-workout cardio was almost where it was when I left off, and then today's an off day, and I did my cardio this morning, and I'm not too far away.
That's good. Just don't fuck it up.
I got legs tomorrow. No matter how my legs feel, I'm gonna make some adjustments with a few things. Uh, I should be able to get a good workout in either way. But like I said, no matter how it feels, I'm gonna make the adjustments, and I'm just not gonna take a chance. And maybe the following week I'll do pretty much the same manner as I'm doing this week, and then if I need be, and then after that, I think I'm back to full swing.
I hope so. I hope so, bro.
I got to stretch a little bit more with the legs, and I've been thinking about uh, pulling up some videos on YouTube, some basic yoga, and just casting it on the TV and following along.
Oh, you could recommend that. I think while you're
Yeah.
feeling good,
Sorry, am I boring you?
uh, you know,
Yeah, and I think that maybe that's gonna work.
yeah, I
We'll
think you
see how
should,
it
man.
goes.
I did yoga after my car wreck, and that helped me out a lot.
Yeah. It's not gonna. It's. I don't want to. Like I said, the last two, not the last one. I'm just getting over that. The one before was the worst that I've had. If you go back prior to that, that was the worst one. Now this last one, even though it didn't last as long, the the pain, everything was much worse. I literally had to pull out a walker for a couple hours to use before I was able to start moving again on my own. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. I need to figure out
All right,
the
you're
mechanism of that.
tired. You're tired. I'm not going to bore you.